Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to today's session. My name is Janet Willoughby, and I'd like my colleague introduce himself.
Yeah, hi there everyone, Happy New Year. My name is Ben Orsesi and I'm also one of the other HE and Careers Advisors here at the Angel Campus.
Okay, so as the title suggests, today's session is called What Next After A-Levels and BTECs. This is a series of sessions. This is session 1. Session 2 will be taking a closer look at university. So let's just focus on today's session. Okay. Right, so the aims of today's session are for you to consider and compare your options open to you after your A-levels and BTECs, to really clearly identify the opportunities that can strengthen your applications, select appropriate research tools to conduct further research into your options in light of the COVID-19 and Brexit, to explain the value and importance of college enrichment, to explore the value of accessing the career service and of course Get Ahead News, and to consider the value of joining the Future Apprentice tutorial in your final year. Okay, so I think it's really, really important to just take a moment to reflect on all that's happening. There's been so many changes. Obviously, we are now in a new year, new cycle, but also, 2020 was definitely a year to remember. And I just think it's really important that we all really just try and stay focused on our key aims and to never give up, because I think that's really, really, really important. I know it's hard, but I think it's really, really important that we try and gain some positivity, and hopefully we'll see some light this year.
Just also to add on that, Janet, I mean, obviously, like I said, we're in a kind of new year, isn't it? And it's a new start, so you're all Year 12 students in the first year of your A-levels or your BTECs, these sessions that we always run annually around this time are always to get you thinking about yourself, taking a bit of ownership for your ideas. And hopefully, as I said, if you weren't thinking about your plans and ideas, they'll inspire you to start thinking about them, really.
Cool, thank you. All right, so next slide. So really we're at the stage of kind of decision making now, as you're going into almost your final phase, in terms of decision making, in terms of what you want to do when you leave Candy. So obviously the options are university, or some of you may be looking at maybe getting some sort of work-based learning via an apprenticeship or a degree apprenticeship, or getting some sort of employment, or indeed a gap year. So there are a few pathways there for you all to kind of really carefully consider. And we're here to help you every step of that way. Okay, so I'm going to ask you all a question. So what do you actually plan to do after your A-levels or your BTEC? So is it A, university, B, an apprenticeship, C, employment, D, a gap year, E, you're really unsure? So I'm just going to pause for a few moments for you to have a think about that. Okay, so now that you've all kind of given your ideas, let's just kind of start with university. So Ben, I'd really appreciate if you could chip in here. So obviously we do have pros and cons to going to university, don't we? So obviously you've got things like you gain that academic qualification, don't you? You get an opportunity to be an expert in your subject area, and you can actually prepare for a specific pathway, for example, like nursing, midwifery, or becoming a doctor, a vet, or a social worker. So it's that academic, tangible evidence that you gain at the end of the time that you're studying. You get a chance to meet new people, to kind of socialize and kind of really get an opportunity to kind of meet people from all walks of life. You get many mature students that enter into university, so you'll get a wide spectrum of people that are coming in your proximity. Also social life and student events, signing up to student union, really being part of clubs and societies. And also I'm plugging here the career service as always. Obviously you'll get access to the university career department, whereby they'll be there on hand as in a continuation from the services that we've offered here for you, where you'll receive advice regarding placements, interviews, CVs, etc. So there's some other pros. Have you got any other suggestions?
Yeah, I'll add something. Yeah, like I mean, you may be in a very simple sense, just have a real academic interest in a subject that you really want to take on further. I mean, we will talk about this more in the session you're in the next part of your tutorial program, the closer look to higher education session. But it's a key point to say, that going to university isn't always about working out what career you want to do. I think that's an important point to make quite early. Like, I mean, it could be about having a real academic interest in a subject, and you'll love an interest in the subject. And I hate to use this word, I'm going to use it. It's quite a used word, passion. I never like using that on personal statements. But that could be the driving force of why to go to university. It could be a simple thing that you love your English A level, or you love your history A level, you love your chemistry A level, you love your BTEC in applied science, and you just want to take it further. So sometimes there could be, that could be the driving force behind your sort of thinking as well. But I would just like to reiterate that point, that sometimes there can be this overthinking that you have to know what you want to do for a job before deciding what you want to do for your course at university. But it really is the other way around in lots of ways. But we'll talk about that in the subsequent session. And I would sort of add, to reiterate the points that Janet made there, we know from our stats that about sort of 50% of you might stay at home, 50% of you might move away from home. But, meeting new people, having different experiences, you often use this sort of, here's term of, the kind of the university experience. So, going to university isn't just about the study side as well. It could be about developing these sort of life skills and these sort of social skills that Janet mentioned there, and developing skills that means that you may not ever return to the home of mum or dad or parent care or guardian again.
That's
so
true.
So that could be one of the great things you get out of going to university, other than just the kind of academic side. It could be the way it's going to develop you as a young person as well.
And for some students, they are the first in their family to actually go to university. So that is a huge achievement in itself. So there are many reasons why people do study. So yeah, definitely exciting to think about. Okay, so obviously the cons, I mean, I've got the most obvious one is the tuition loan. Obviously, it's at the moment, it's just over £9,000 a year. So obviously that can be something that people need to kind of take into consideration. But again, in terms of talking a bit more further about the fees and the loan, that will be actually explored much further in a closer look at university. So we will explore more of that in the next segment. Okay, so another question for you all. So if you want to start university straight after you leave, Candy, so when do you think you will apply? When can you apply, rather? So is it A, January the 15th, 2022, B, when you get round to it, C, November 2021, or D, before July 2021? So I'm going to pause again just to let you have a think about that. Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. All right, so you can apply as early as November 2021. Now, obviously, for the Oxbridge students, those that are interested in medicine, dentistry, and veterinary science, their application deadline is October the 15th. But really, for pretty much for everybody else, you're looking at, you can apply as early as November 2021.
And just to add on that, Jan, I mean, those dates will come around really, really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Janet and I will remember doing these talks to the last year's.
I can't believe we're in 2021.
Yes, so you may think, why are we doing these talks here in January, about all this stuff, because this will just come around so quickly, and it's all about, if it is uni, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a minute on the other options, I mean, it's making sure your decision is well thought out, well researched, and this is why we're putting a spotlight on this now, really.
Definitely. Okay, so let's move on to apprenticeships now, which was also on the list. So again, we'll look at some of the advantages. So obviously you're gaining that industry specific skill base, aren't you? So you're getting that tangible, what employers need. You're exactly giving them what they actually desire. You're earning a salary, so which is always a win-win for anybody. And you're getting that on the job, hands-on, in real time training. So for example, if you were doing some sort of accountancy apprenticeship, then it would be kind of accredited by the AAT as well. So you'd get that kind of reputable double badge of honor in terms of what you're gaining, industry standard qualifications. You'd gain access to in-house opportunities. So for example, every organization has an intranet, which is an internal kind of website designed specifically for staff, and whereby vacancies are regularly updated. So you would pretty much be in that talent pool to access opportunities as well. As well as that, there are perks, staff discounts, gym membership, things like that, and also travel loans and things like that. You also gain a really strong work ethic. It's really, really important that you kind of work hard, and you'll gain those kind of unspoken norms and values that you gain within the workplace in terms of that kind of social etiquette and how to conduct yourself in the workplace. Also gaining transferable skills, which you could also take across to another employer as well. So any kind of employability skills that you pick up is going to transfer across without a doubt. So it's not going to be a waste of time with that particular employer on that apprenticeship. And every experience is a learning experience as well. Ben, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think apprenticeships are just, there's such fantastic options for young people. There really are. The way they can develop you, the way they can develop you for the world of work in this competitive kind of employment world out there. But yeah, I mean, I just want to maybe if you go on to the cons, Janet, and then I'll talk a bit about
that's fine.
Certainly in some of the
absolutely fine
the kind of in enrichment things you and I are involved in.
Great. Okay, so some of the cons, you know, the old adage is always that, you know, there is no guarantee of a permanent job. So, for example, if you were on a degree apprenticeship after 5 years, there is no kind of golden handshake at the end to say that is it, that's it, or whether it's an 18-month apprenticeship. So there is no guarantee after your actual apprenticeship term ends that there is a job for you at the end. However, I always state, there is no job. No job has a guarantee. Yeah, every job has an endpoint. So there is no job for life in that respect. So you should definitely not let that put you off. And you should always look at the benefits and in terms of how you can kind of gain knowledge and expertise along the way, and never focus on the negativity in terms of, oh my gosh, I may not get a job at the end of this. Obviously, starting salary can be low, but that really does depend on the level. So the average degree apprentice can earn up to £24,000, which I think is pretty good for a starting salary. And obviously, it can be competitive. I mean, degree apprenticeships, I always liken it to jumping through lots of hoops of fire, but it is worth the challenge and it's worth the process. You know, they can have a series of kind of assessment centres, video interviewing, a telephone interview, you know, verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning tests. So they have a whole menu of ways in which they assess you, but you should not let that put you off. So they are some of the things.
Yeah, just to add on that, Janet, like, I mean, to add on that, so, you know, the really important points that Janet's made there. I mean, Janet, some of you may recognise Janet or I already if you're part of Legal Action or Lloyd's Junior Scholars. I'm sure we touched on apprenticeships a lot in our enrichment programmes. But, you know, I think the competitive part there is the real part to sort of home in on. It's quite often I speak to a young person in the college and they'll kind of say, I kind of don't want to go to uni, but I kind of want to do an apprenticeship. And you ask them what area of work they want to do it in, but they don't know. So it's kind of like the apprenticeship is the default option because they don't want to follow the academic pathway. If you're a young person that wants to get into a really, like Janet said, a well-paid up to 20,000+ a year salary, you know, these employers can really cherry pick who they want. So it is, I'm sure we'll talk about it later on in the presentation, about taking advantage of opportunities that are there in front of you in the college. Because if you want to be that person that's going to be cherry picked, you know, Janet and I and other careers workers at Angel Campus will happily help you with your kind of application to this in year 13, but it will be competitive. It will be, like Janet said, you're going to have to go through a whole process of different parts of the selection process. It's a bit like a graduate going for a graduate job, applying with similar people, similar age, 22, 23 years plus. So you've got to be prepared to go through quite a journey, I think, isn't it, if you're going to, if you're serious about apprenticeships. I mean, a few year 13 students I've spoken to in the sort of last term, just sort of trying to toughen them up to make sure they're kind of prepared for what's in front of them. And sometimes it can be getting some knockbacks and kind of, things on why someone didn't get an actual position, but it's about learning from that and moving forward.
And also understanding that the whole thing is a process, and you have to learn to desensitize yourself from the process, because the old adage with apprenticeships, it's very much apply, apply, apply. I mean, a former Candy alumni actually shared that he applied for 15 apprenticeship applications. 15. So it's definitely a speculate to accumulate process. So don't get too precious. Never, ever, ever apply for one apprenticeship and sit at home waiting for that call. So it's definitely a process that you have to keep moving on from. All right, let's move on. Sorry.
Just add one point out, Jen. I'm sure you're the same. I mean, I like it when I have a young person who's serious about applying for apprenticeships and is serious about, putting the work in. That's not that Janet or I can guarantee there's going to be the positive outcome, but we can hopefully get you to interview and hopefully support you along that journey. Right. But you've got to be, as I said, as Janet said, you've got to be quite thick-skinned with it. But as I said, if you are determined and motivated and driven, and those are traits within you, those are going to help you massively with this.
Yep, definitely. Okay, I've got another question for you all. Okay, so apprenticeships provide, is it A, work experience? Is it B, structured training? C, paid employment? D, professional qualifications? Or E, all of the above? Have a think. I'm just going to give you a moment. Okay. For those of you that put down E, all of above is absolutely correct. So yeah, it does provide you with all of that. And exactly what Ben and I have been saying just previously. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea as to our apprenticeship destinations from Candy, just of last year's cohort, just to give you a snapshot as to what sorts of organisations they have gone on to. So you can see here there are some financial companies. There's obviously digital, Google and ITV. So one particular student I was working very closely with, she actually secured a digital marketing apprenticeship with Google. And she was really, really active in the actual college. She was a student. She was the president of the student union. So she was really, really hungry, and she signed up for quite a lot of enrichment. She was part of legal action as well. And she also became one of our Candy ambassadors for the career service as well. So she really did get involved, and it did pay off for her. So that was just one example.
I think the point you made there, Janet, you just subtly said it, just to reiterate the point, you said she was hungry. I mean, that's just a great way of putting it. She was determined. She was the sort of young person that would go for an interview and stand out for the right reasons. But she was hungry because she spread her neck quite far.
Definitely, she did. And she also actually shared that she jumped through lots of hoops of fire, as I said earlier, but when it came down to the final interview, and the interviewee asked her where she had studied, and she said she studied at Candy, the actual hiring manager actually was a former Candy alumni. So the actual manager actually studied at Candy. So that was actually quite a touch, actually. I thought it was brilliant. So we've got some great people out there, basically. Okay. Let's move on to gap year. Just to get your thoughts. Ben, we can have a discussion just in terms of whether we think it's a waste of time. So just to give you some stats, first of all. So, in terms of our last year's cohort, we know that 45 students decided to take a gap year. Some of the reasons were that they actually wanted to retake exams, just to kind of consolidate and do better. Some of them were looking to apply through UCAS with their actual real grades. So they wanted to kind of apply the following year. Some of them actually partook in some work experience just to boost up their employability skills. And some actually said, you know what, I don't actually want to go to university, or, I'm not actually interested in the course that I've initially chosen. So they've literally changed their mind. So that just gives you a little bit of a synopsis as to some of our gap year cohort from 2020. Okay, so let's just kind of explore some of the pros and cons of the gap year. So, you know, for some, I always liken learning to being on a train. It's like you're on a learning train, and some people, they stay on that train, they're on a fast train, and they keep on going until they get to their end destination, which is employability. For some of us, we need to stop and we need to get off at the next platform, and we need to recharge and regroup and just take a moment to reflect, you know, maybe check on our mental health, breathe, you know, and really just stop. And that's okay. So that's for some people. For others, it's literally a journey of personal development, and they need to kind of re-evaluate who they are. They may take up a short course or do some reading, some poetry, or whatever floats their boat. But it may be something where they want to work on their own personal development, yeah, within that year. For others, it's about gaining new skills and experiences. So, you know, obviously in pre-COVID times, that would involve like working, volunteering, and traveling, really, in any shape or form, whether it's volunteering. I mean, I'll show you some more slides in a second. I don't want to go into it just yet. So volunteering and traveling, etc. For some, they may work in a coffee shop, for example, and save up to go to uni. And in that case, they then are able to then return refreshed and focused and have a new lease of life and really feel like, you know what, I needed that, but now I'm ready to get back on that train. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Just to add on that, Janet, like, I mean, yeah, I like the analogy of the train coming off of the.
I love my analogies.
Yeah, it could be like, I mean, I suppose my point to raise with this, I mean, it could just be like a pause, you know, but it could be like you're saying, like, what I would say with the gap year as well, it may not always be this organic plan that you have, that you're thinking, right, this is it, I'm going to have a gap year, I need to refresh. You may just kind of loosely fall into this at the end of year 13, at the end of your second year of A-levels, at the end of your second year of your BTEC. Things don't, you know, don't want to sound like I'm sort of being old and telling you how things will be, but sometimes things in life don't go exactly how you planned. And sometimes things have to go off plan a little bit, you know, for things to work out. So sometimes things that are unexpected can be really, really, really positive. I'm sure obviously our year 13 students from last year from A-levels and BTEC were not expecting, you know, the sort of changes that happened globally this year, and that might change their reasons to go to uni or not. But I think, you know, it can be, I think the gap here is, or in terms of what you do, then that's what you get out of it, what personal goals you set yourself, really.
Yeah.
Everyone's goals, I suppose, will be different. As Janet said, you may want to save money and work in a job you have, and you know that could, you know, sometimes you might feel you need to have a break. It might sharpen your mind that you're then sure you want to go to uni. Yeah. Or even not, or even it might make you think, you know what, I don't want to go to uni. Maybe I do want to follow the apprenticeship type route, you know. Yeah.
It's that moment, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some of the cons. So obviously we know that sometimes for some of us that are on that platform and we've just got off the train, we actually can forget that there was a train in the first place. And sometimes we're like, oh, I don't actually want to get back on that train. I don't even know how to purchase another ticket to get back on that train. I don't understand the process anymore of boarding a train in the first place. So with that analogy, what I'm saying is that you could lose the study habit. You can actually forget that whole learning process completely. That's not for everybody, but some people may lose the study habit. I always say this, that a year goes really quickly, and I think we've all experienced that with 2020, and that it's really, really, really important that you do things that are meaningful, because in that year you could very easily have not achieved anything, inverted commas, meaningful. And I always say, you know, statistically, apparently last year we watched over 140 million hours of Netflix. And I could quite easily spend a year watching Netflix and wake up and be like, what happened? Where's the year gone? Where did that go? So it's really, really important that gap year may sound like a mouthful, but a year is really, really quick. So it's okay to read, reflect, recharge, and breathe. But then maybe think about, okay, can I volunteer? Are there other things I can do to add to my narrative? for when I do get back to university and I do have to write my personal statement, for example, or I am applying for that apprenticeship or that job, you know, what am I putting on that application form? What am I saying in that job interview in terms of, you know, when I'm talking about examples, an example of when I've kind of like worked in a team or examples of where I've shown initiative. So I always say just make sure, be mindful that it's meaningful.
I know that our examples of ourselves is historic, Janet, obviously, but I mean, have like you ever had a gap year in your sort of professional or studied life, or?
I didn't officially take a gap year in the true sense of the term, but I know that I did have gaps in terms of working in retail, saving up to get to university. But I don't think I badged it as a gap year per se, because I was retaking an A level. So that was what I was doing in terms of being meaningful. So I was doing that evening class as well as working in the daytime. So as much as I was building my narrative to university, I was working as well.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, I asked that question because I had a gap year when I was 18 after I finished my A levels, which wasn't planned, and I had a gap year when I was 22 after I finished my degree. So, and that one was planned actually, really. So I suppose again, I'm not here to talk about myself, obviously, but I think if you know, there are huge benefits to having a gap year, like the pause analogy that we used before. It said it's not, I mean, I'm hugely biased because I'm just going to say it's not negative, as long as you have a structure and a goal within it, I would say, really.
Yeah, 100%.
I think sometimes there's this feeling. I mean, it's a valid point to say you can lose a study habit, but there are only sort of some academic subjects at university, things like maths or some of the sciences or kind of engineering, really, I would say. Universities, if that's what you're planning to do, universities are generally fine with it, really. We certainly say to our students at Angel Campus in your UCAS personal statements, when ex-students do a UCAS form, I always ask them to talk about what they're doing within their gap year, so they make reference to it.
Cool. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so again, just to give you a synopsis of the types of volunteering experiences that people have undertaken, whether it's working with animals, community projects abroad, children, conservation, humanitarian projects, or teaching, you know, even like, for example, teaching here in England, for example. I mean, obviously in COVID-19, I've actually often said to students who are interested in teaching to build that narrative, what's stopping them from starting a little program on Zoom with some family and friends, young people, for example? What is actually stopping you from actually doing the teaching online? So there are things that you can still do. So obviously underneath I've put, please, you know, you have to check the travel guidelines because it is forever changing in this current climate. Other things, obviously, volunteering, working abroad, internships, activities, and things like that. And I just want to touch on the study abroad very briefly. So obviously, as of the 26th of December, the government did announce, obviously, we did have the Erasmus scheme, which is actually a HE, a higher education exchange program, which used to cover about 33 countries. And it enabled young people affiliated to universities in schemes such as education, training, youth, and sports initiatives, and it combined all the European Union. Well, obviously, in light of Brexit, that's now stopped. So the UK is in the Brexit strategy. They have just announced, as you can see, a new £100 million scheme for students to study and work abroad, and it will replace the Erasmus scheme. And it's called the Turing scheme. I hope I've pronounced that correctly, the Turing scheme, to support thousands of students. And the government are claiming that it's going to have a more wider reach, more global reach than just Europe. And they're claiming that it will open up more opportunities for students to exchange and travel and learn. So that's the latest kind of announcement that we've had from Gavin Williamson. And also I've just put a hyperlink at the bottom in terms of studying abroad. I think it's really important that you check out the up-to-date guidelines on the link that I've posted for students that are looking to study their entire course within an EU country. So really, really important that you check that out. Okay, now I know obviously in a closer look at university, there'll also be some tips in terms of studying abroad as well, but I just thought I'd flag that in now. Yeah. Okay, so I've just given you some useful links in terms of gap year opportunities if anyone is actually interested. And again, as Ben reiterated, we are here to support you also with gap year advice and guidance as well.
Just to add on that, Janet, as well, like in the current climate we're in, I mean, let's be positive and forward thinking as well, isn't it? That
yeah, totally.
By the time our A-level and BTEC students could be in a gap year, that's going to be 2022 turning 2023. You know, the landscape of movement and travel and stuff, let's hope is
exactly
back to a similar place that we know, because that's going to be a great thing for all of you.
100%. We want it fluid, don't we? Yeah. Exactly. Right, so let's move on. So obviously another option for some of our students is to actually not take a gap year or an apprenticeship, but also to do an art foundation. It's a 1-year course, and it enables them to kind of explore a range of different pathways and techniques from 3D design and architecture, fashion and textiles, fine art, graphic communication design, for example. You apply directly to the institution and not via UCAS. And, you know, it's really important that you have a portfolio of work as evidence to show the admissions teams, and it's free for under 19-year-olds. I've just also posted some links again in terms of art foundation courses. So for some students, it really does enable them to kind of consolidate their existing skills, their existing artistic skills. For some students, it's about exploring different techniques, and they need to kind of get that depth of kind of expertise in the artistry field. So it really can help them build that up in that year. Okay, and for some, it's, you know, it does give them that breathing space to work out where in the world they fit in terms of the creative field. So in terms of what kind of art are they interested in? Are they interested in the digital techniques? Are they interested in sculpture? You know, are they interested in television, kind of graphic design and all that technical stuff? So it really gives them a bit more of a broader reach. So art foundations are another viable option for our students as well.
Just to add a point on that as well, Janet, like, I mean, Janet mentioned on the slides that being free when you're under 19, it kind of means, really, just adding a further point to that, if you're going to have to do an art foundation, don't take a gap year, because ultimately, if you're 19 turning 20 in the academic year, you have to pay for it.
Good point.
So if you want to have if you want to do the art foundation, that's the one time you shouldn't take you shouldn't take a gap year, because not that the art foundation is a gap year, because of course it's not, but it is quite it is a program where you'll be able to explore your creativity further as well. So definitely don't wait for the fees for that. That's something
totally. Under 19, that's the one, isn't it? Definitely. Okay, so really this is about getting you to think about what it is that you do. We've been talking about transferable skills, employability, you know, in terms of what employers are looking for. All those extracurricular enrichments really add value and really enables you to kind of stand out and be unique as an individual. So I've just pulled up some examples. So for example, Ben mentioned earlier, he leads on the Lloyd's Junior Scholars. I lead on the Legal Action Programme for students that are interested in law. You've got Politics in Action. You've got Toast, which is a newsletter. You've got the Jam. I love the toast and jam analogies, and that's a podcast. You've got debating. You've got so much going on here at the college group, and even thinking about things that you're doing outside of the college group, not necessarily just things that we offer here in the college. So also start to think about what it is you can do or what you are doing at the moment. I've just got a quick screen grab here of the Candy Enrichment booklet. I just wanted to draw your attention that it is actually color coded. So you can see there are different pathways from medical to world studies, performing arts, creative industry, sports, law, humanities, and social sciences. And this just gives you a synopsis as to what sorts of enrichment programs we have on offer for you as we speak. So for those of you that haven't, I really would still suggest that you do sign up for some enrichment, because it really does help you have some narrative and some extracurricular skills as well. Definitely the order of the day. Did you want to add anything to that before I move on?
Yeah, like, I mean, as I said, you obviously should be doing enrichment as part of your Year 12 program, but often I meet students at the start of Year 13 that haven't, you know. So as Janet says, you know, it can develop your interests in so many ways, you know. So if if you feel you're a bit short on enrichment, I mean, that's probably a discussion to have with your tutor in the first instance, I would say. But make sure if you're not doing things now, that obviously at the start of year 13, you are as an absolute minimum, really, because it's as it says, it will enrich your experience of being a college ultimately.
Yeah, and there is so much online. There is so much for you to do. It's like, I definitely encourage you, if you haven't already, to kind of seek out the careers team, because we do offer appointments online, and we are here to help you and to kind of enable you to generate those ideas and get your thoughts more focused. Because the only, I don't want to say COVID is a good thing, because it's not, but the thing it has forced everyone to do is to think out of the box. So I think, we are thinking far more creatively in terms of what enrichment can look like in practice. So I think we need to seize that opportunity and really work out what we can do, because unfortunately, moving forward, as much as we are all sympathetic and as much as employers are sympathetic to COVID in terms of the impact it's had, ultimately, where one student will say, because of COVID, I didn't, another student will say, well, because of COVID, I did. So I think it's important that you don't let that stop you from thinking out of the box and creating opportunities. Really important. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a program that has been designed for year 13s. So we're just giving you a heads up here for students that are interested in apprenticeships. As the title suggests, it's the Future Apprentice Program. And it's pretty much a robust package of support in order for you to make those applications, really. So it can be anything from guidance interviews. We've got key employers that come in and talk to you. So you've got a range of skill bases. So you've got like the Lloyd's Banking Group that offer amazing sessions for students that are interested in finance, business and accounting, for example. And we've also got another pathway for those that are interested in the creative industries as well. And so we have really good employer engagement on this program, interview skills, telephone video screening, interview processes, mock practices, CV preparation and things like that. So Future Apprentice Program, we're just literally giving you a heads up on it. It is to come, and we will give you more details as it comes through. But just wanted to show you that this is on its way. And for anyone that is interested in the Future Apprentice Program or apprenticeships full stop, we always encourage you to also apply for university as a plan B. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on that point,
Yep.
I was going to say next, like, I mean, I think it's the first time we both said it, these are not, hopefully you're already aware, these are not exclusive options, these post-18 or post-19, however old you are at the moment. You can be a year 13 student that's applying to university, maybe they're part of the Future Apprentice tutor group that also applying for apprenticeships, maybe they're considering a gap year. Yeah. So you can be a student in year 13 who is, as Janet said, if you're applying for apprenticeships, we'd always advise you to apply to uni. You don't have to. Just because you submit a UCAS one doesn't mean you're going to go to uni. It does give you options. Many students in that Future Apprentice group, like, I mean, there is a certain percentage that do go on to uni anyway. But I suppose the key point to make about with all of these options is, you can have your eggs in more than one basket, isn't it? Really?
Definitely, definitely. I think that is the key thing to really put in mind. Don't just focus on one area. Okay, so just giving you some key links in terms of where to seek out apprenticeship opportunities as well. And you'll see Get Ahead News at the moment at the bottom. Right, so this is just a screen grab of an example of what Get Ahead News looks like, and it gets emailed to you in your inbox every fortnight. So please watch out for it, because there are amazing opportunities that are produced, and those that are in it win it. So I'm not saying it's a competition. I know that sounded a bit like a competition there, but really there are so many students that actively apply for opportunities. And ironically, some of the students in this picture are former Candy students. Actually, the girl with the pink hijab, she's the young lady I was telling you about that got the Google Digital Marketing Apprenticeship at Google. And then you've got another student to the far left, Blessing. She was part of Legal Action, and she did amazingly. She gained some work experience through it, and she's now studying law at Leicester University. But there's just an example that some of these students were really actively engaging and applying for loads of opportunities on Get Ahead News, and it really did pay off for them.
Yeah. mean, we say this all the time in our talks we do, you know, this time of year, but it's a group of students in the college. And I think even in this kind of like, you know, kind of online learning that we've got at the moment, it will still be the same groups of students applying. You know, so it's the same groups of students taking advantage of all the same opportunities. Often the students, when they come to write, whether it's a personal statement for UCAS or their information for an application form for apprenticeships, they're almost inundated with too much good stuff to talk about because they put themselves out so much almost. And sometimes my worry for these students is they're actually putting too much time with this rather than their studies, their A levels or their BTECs sometimes. But you just need to not be encouraged by us to use Get Ahead News or a tutor. You should be actively looking at it every time it's sent out to you. I mean, it's on their Moodle pages as well, isn't it? I think, Janet, as well, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, please just check it out. I mean, we constantly plug Get Ahead News, but it is actually amazing. So please pay attention to it. The other thing I also wanted to draw your attention to is University Taster Course Programme, which is now open. So it always opens in January of every year, and it's specifically for year 12s, and it does what it says on the tin. It's a taster course search. So again, what it does is that you can literally search by subject, and it pulls up a range of London-based universities who are all offering taster courses. So what you gain from it is that it's almost like you're getting a mini lecture. And for some students, it helps them to consolidate the fact that they want to study geography, for example. For other students, it may help them consolidate that they don't want to study it. So either way, it's a good learning experience. It's also really good to maybe make reference to a particular element of a lecture that you may have listened to in your personal statement for UCAS. So it's really, really important that you do sign up. We say this every year. You must sign up for a University Taster Course Programme, which has all moved online. So as you can see here, sorry, Ben, I've just put a screen grab. So to the left-hand side, you can see a list of the subjects, and you literally tick the subjects that you are interested in. So you've got anything from law, mathematics, healthcare, you've got economics, biology, biological sciences. And I've just literally given you an example of what I saw just literally looking last night. So for example, I can see here at UCL on the 17th of March, 2021, they're offering a taster course in population health sciences. I like it. It says COVID-19 and beyond. That sounds really interesting. And that's being hosted by UCL on the 17th of March. So there's another one, Earth and Planetary Sciences Virtual Open Evening. Birkbeck University are offering that on the 21st of Jan, and they're all virtual. So there's no excuse really. Definitely sign up. Okay, so University Taster Courses, please, please, please check it out. And sign up.
That's been my point with that, Janet. Like, I mean, historically, these are always oversubscribed, aren't they? They're always,
yeah.
You can go into it in January and February, and it's already booked out.
That's
but
right.
I mean, obviously, this is one advantage of these different times we're living in. They're all going to be online, so there's an unlimited amount of places there, isn't it? Really, you would think. So so just, you know, as Janet said, even if it turns out that you thought you loved your whatever A level or your BTEC subject area, but then you kind of it might turn you into thinking about something else. So it's going to be a positive outcome from it, whatever the experience, isn't it? I think. Or positive learning experience, isn't it, I suppose?
Definitely. I mean, I actually think I'm going to sign. I want to listen in for that population health sciences one, COVID-19 and beyond. I think it sounds absolutely fascinating. So please, 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 University Taster Course Programme is live. Sign up and just get some courses under your belt. Okay, so just a kind of a bit of a recap. So how to stand out from the crowd. So you can actually decide to enter a future apprentice group in the final year. We've talked about that just now. Book an appointment with us in careers, read Get Ahead News and sign up for enrichment opportunities, whereby you'll receive help from us on a range of different areas, from CVs, application forms, interview techniques, presentation skills. Now, obviously, it says visit universities. Now, obviously, we mean virtually visit. Opendays.com, just literally check that website earlier today. All of it's virtual, so there's no excuse. Again, sign up with opendays.com and start looking at universities to really get yourself in gear and in that mode of working out where, what, why, and how. Okay, and like I just said, make sure that you sign up for university taster days. Definitely. Also, to signpost that we have a careers YouTube channel. So literally I've just put the link on there, but it's Careers at Candy Angel Campus, and it's absolutely flooded with content, and I'm not exaggerating. There is so much information on there. There's videos, top tips from employers, from Lloyd's banking groups talking about apprenticeships, to how to podcast and how to make it in the media, study skills and advice from science students, how to prepare for an application for law. There is so much. So please, please, please subscribe, and check it out, because again, packed with lots of information. And that draws to an end to today's session. Hope you enjoyed it. And as I said, the next in this series of sessions is a closer look at university. So this has been Janet Willoughby.
And this has been Ben Orsesi.
And we really hope you have a good day.
Yeah, we'll see you on the, we will see you together again for the next talk.
That's right. Take care of yourselves.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.